today. We are very excited for you all to be here. This is the first time we are doing Ukrainian Game Showcase. This is the first time we're doing it in San Francisco. So thank you for coming to celebrate Ukrainian game developers with us. My name is Olga. I am one of the co-organizers, and this is my incredible colleagues Igor and Svetlana, so I will pass the microphone to them.
Thank you for coming, everyone. I'd like to say a couple of words about Ukrainian Games Initiative. So basically, we're doing Ukrainian Games Festival. You can find it on Steam. There are more than 450 games on Steam made in Ukraine. So please enjoy all of them.
Again, thank you all for coming. I'm Svetlana. I worked at Netflix Games, but I'm also a co-founder of Leleka Foundation. Of course, we're not only featuring Ukrainian indie developers, but we're also raising money to support our medics at the front lines. And we really appreciate your donations. We really appreciate your time. We have amazing panel and amazing games. Please spend some time, play them, talk to people. We absolutely love having you here. It's, as Ola and Igor mentioned, it's our first time. Hopefully not the last one. If you give us a good feedback, we're gonna do it next time as well. And we also today have a very special guest. It's Consul General of Ukrainian San Francisco, Dmitro Kushniruk.
Thank you. So first of all, welcome to Consulate of Ukraine in San Francisco, because this building is partially ours. And we're absolutely proud to support this first ever showcase of Ukrainian video games held during the GDC week. And Ukraine has always been known for talented developers, but this year we believe it's a milestone because it's really Ukrainian event during GDC, and which is very, very nice and beautiful event thanks to this great team which made it possible. And it's, you know, the Bay Area is like a place for many good and very important conferences like GDC, TechCrunch, Startup, Grind, and the GTC next week, yeah. And the Consulate of Ukraine always wants to make sure that Ukrainian companies, businesses are present, and this year at GDC they're really very, very much present. And I'd like to thank our partners for that, to Pereira, Ukrainian Games, and of course Leleka Foundation, as well as all dedicated volunteers who made it happen. And despite the war, Ukraine continues to create, to work, to organize, to move forward, and also special thanks to support to all the international game industry community for supporting Ukraine. And you can help, as Svetlana mentioned, you can help Ukrainian cause by supporting Ukrainian medics, by contributing to our trusted partner, Leleka Foundation. And thank you, and invite you all to enjoy the panel and also to play Ukrainian games afterwards. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Hello, everybody. My name is Irena Pereira. I'm the CEO of Unleashed Games, and I am a Ukrainian American. I actually was born here in the US, but I grew up in Kiev and a little small in Zhytomyr called Korosteny. And in Korosteny, apparently, or in Zhytomyr, was Olga Shiryeva. So we're guaranteed cousins in some way or another. And being able to find somebody from my county in the games industry was revelatory. And that happened, and we connected later on after the war started. But we'll get into that. Here I have these incredible, incredible panelists that are here to talk about the challenges of game distribution and the challenges of making games in a war zone and how we can get over these hurdles with resilience and grit. So we're going to start off. Everybody's going to introduce themselves. So I'll give it to you, Chloé.
Hi, everyone. It is on. It's on. My name is Chloé. I work with ID at Xbox, primarily with partners in the Americas, and help them navigate Xbox, publishing on Xbox, self-publishing on Xbox, and finding ways to partner on titles for Game Pass, showcases, and all the fun stuff. But I'll pass it over to my neighbor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Oh, wow. Hi everyone, my name is Elena, or Olena, whatever spelling you prefer. I'm Ukrainian and I've been in video games industry for over 15 years, previously running a game development outsourcing company called iLogos, first as COO and later as CEO. After this, I started several ecosystem projects, Achievers Hub, Game Developers Accelerator, and publisher investor matchmaking platform Global Game Speech. Currently, I represent Burny Games. I'm head of strategic partnerships in this company. It's a Ukrainian company, and it was founded on March 1st, 2022, just a few days after the full-scale invasion began. But despite of these challenging circumstances, the company reached quite a lot of success already. We grew to 140-person team, published more than 10 mobile games, and recently also started publishing third-party titles. We reached 65 million players combined, and now we're looking for more games to publish. So I'll be happy to add the mobile publisher from Ukraine perspective to this panel.
Hello, my name is Maria Grygorovych. I am a head of creative and chief operational officer of Giusti Game World. Our last known release was Stalker 2. So we self-published developers that our studio exists more than 30 years already, one of the most known Ukrainian studio in the world. Yep, that's all.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful having you here and to have you represent, the various parts of our business. But before we get started, because I know that we have a mix of Ukrainians here, and we also have Americans that haven't quite experienced what it is to be like in a war zone. So before we get into the games part of the discussion, I wanted to ask the panel, remember back to the day, where were you when the war started on February 24th, 2022?
I can start. For me personally, hello? Oh. For me personally, the war started in 2014 because I'm from Lugansk originally, and the outsourcing company that I mentioned previously, iLogos, it's also from Lugansk. So in 2014, I was a COO of this company, and we had 120 people in Lugansk. So we had to relocate them all with their families to safer regions of Ukraine. We hoped that it would be just for a few months, but unfortunately, most of these employees, including ourselves, never came back to Lugansk. And on February 24, 2022, I found out about the war from my window in Kiev. I woke up to the sounds of explosions. I hoped it was something happening on the construction site nearby, but unfortunately it was not. And then being a person from Lugansk, I already knew that probably it means that the invasion started. One more thing to add to my perspective was that back then I was organizing online game jams, and we had our next game jam scheduled from February 25 to March 1st. And it was online event. There were teams from all over the world already registered and ready to start working on their games. We had sponsors, we had partners, we had judges. And in addition to the decision what to do with our own lives, whether we should stay where we are, whether we should go somewhere, me and my team had to make a decision whether we should keep organizing this game jam. And we did. I had to talk about it at GDC a couple years ago about how we organized game jam from bomb shelters. Later on, I moved to safer countries. Now I live in Finland, but this is how it all started for me.
February 24, I were in Uzhgorod. It's not a big city near the Hungarian border, because it was the end of our relocation, safe program. I don't know, maybe COVID program, not proper word, for our employees. with their families, because we believe that the full-scale invasion will be start. In these days, it was a rare thought in these days, and even about all of that, like incredible people from Xbox team made a movie about it, documentary, like how we, what we did because of the war and how we save our people. And yeah, it was the worst day in my life, for sure. It was incredibly scary, and mostly not about like me, but about those people who not decided to relocate, because mostly people decline that because they were sure that it's impossible that something like that happened.
Sorry, I'm quite moved by hearing your testimonies. I was safe in the US when the invasion started in Ukraine. I remember watching it in the news. It didn't quite register to me how it was relating to my job immediately, because I never thought I'd talk about war in the context of the games industry. You were working with my colleague Ben Robinson in the UK, I'm working with him still, and I know that immediately, as part of our team, we did connect to figure out which studios we knew in Ukraine, which studios we knew that might have projects that need to be put on hold, maybe projects where we have partnerships in place, where cash flows might become difficult. And so we just brainstormed. There was nothing official or immediate, but all of us were aware that people, real life, were at play and might need our help in the most, for us, it felt very insignificant, but would probably be meaningful. So we just continued to work in that way. We also started to hearing about studios relocating, some of them in the US, Canada, around Europe. And so we also wanted to keep track of who needs help in those relocation, getting dev kits, loaning kits, helping with bank account setups and things like that. So we continued working with those teams in that way. But yeah, and then the documentary was an amazing eye-opener for many in our team to see how you'd worked in that environment. I will let you talk about this more later. Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible and so moving. Thank you for sharing, and I know it's hard. Myself, I was actually at DICE fundraising for my very first company, and I was in the lobby of the Vidara surrounded by a bunch of older white men, and I was sitting on a couch, the only female in the room, and I look up at the TV and I see tanks on CNN. And I couldn't talk because I saw the ticker say tanks are rolling into Kiev, and that's where I grew up. So I dropped everything. I ran upstairs and I got on the phone and called my aunt and cousin and told them to get out. And so they got in their car, drove from Kiev to Lviv, and stood in line for 4 days with just the clothing on their backs, just to get over the Polish border, where they met a bus of random people that were evacuating and drove them to Warsaw, to an apartment that we got from some random dude on Twitter. The way the world came together to help Ukrainians in that moment was absolutely stunning. People relocated, made safe. I'm so grateful to the game industry and how we've continued to support Ukraine, and events like this are so important. So thank you all for being here and allowing us to kind of share that moment. But now we can actually talk about games and being badass developers in all circumstances. So actually, could we have a round of applause for these fine human beings here? But here's also the stark reality. Games have never been more volatile, right? Like, what's happening in this industry? It feels like a little bit that it's falling apart in its own way. We have like these economic headwinds that are shattering our norms, shattering our expectations. We can't model, we don't know how to find players. Games that should be clear winners are failing, and teams are getting shut down, people are losing their jobs. It's kind of terrifying to be in games these days. And so we have to rewrite the rule book, and that's actually what we're here to talk about, because, you know, apparently war is now an even bigger topic, and it's going to be disrupting all of our lives in some way or another. And how do we keep making games and making entertainment for people who need it more than ever? So this panel here brings together some amazing Ukrainian American leaders and leaders who have supported Ukrainian developers. And we're going to talk about resilience and how we're like living it every single day. So I wanted to ask everyone, we can start with you, Chloé. How would you describe the state of the game industry and the game distribution today, which I think is the key issue, right? Is how do we get games to people? And how does it compare to when you started?
So I started double decades ago, so it definitely has changed. I think that the key point from my point of view, and certainly from a platform point of view, is there are more games today than there ever was before, and there will be even more games tomorrow than there is today. So we have to sort through a lot of noise to find those gems and help them find their audience, and that's the biggest challenge. Discoverability, I think, for all platforms is the biggest challenge, and certainly for developers. And from our point of view, on the platform level, we obviously have to facilitate access to, you know, store tools and marketing tools, marketing opportunities, and that's what the core of our team strives to do. But it's also about helping developers be seen, whether they are published by you know, there's some great publishers out there, or not, because we love giving developers a voice, and finding that unique key about their games, because your game is unique, but sometimes it's hard to translate what that is. And we see it, you know, in the way that we receive pitches, we see it in the way that we look at comps on our platform, we see it in like the busy calendar that is out there, but we also see it in what surprises us when we see a surprise hit on Steam that maybe if it had been pitched to us, we would have not looked at it. So the audience is also changing. And so you've got this kind of like meeting of two things of like more games than ever, and then players playing different games and playing differently. That's the biggest challenge and the biggest difference for me from when I started some time ago.
From mobile games perspective, I would say that the market is very different from where it was 10, 15 years ago. 10 years ago, you could just develop a good game, put it on the store, and grow organically. In 2026, unfortunately, it's very hard to grow organically in mobile, unless, of course, you have a game based on well-known IP and you have a pre-existing fan base, or you manage to grow through influencers. But it's really, really rare, and it's unpredictable. So most publishers rely on user acquisition. And on one hand, it became faster and cheaper than ever to develop a mobile game. On the other hand, user acquisition costs sometimes can be several times more than your entire development cost. And we need to remember that in mobile, games don't just compete with each other, they also compete with apps, they also compete with social media for players' attention, and this competition is fierce. Another thing is that mobile publishing became increasingly data-driven. And publishers, to succeed, they collect huge amounts of data, they constantly analyze this data to make decisions based on numbers rather than on intuition. So in order to succeed, it's not enough to develop a good game anymore, not even a great game. You need to develop a great game, plus you need to be strategic about marketing, you need to have marketing expertise in-house, you need to probably also have huge marketing budgets and infrastructure for user acquisition, analytics, attribution, mediation, and so on, plus constantly monitor what's going on the market, what your competitors are doing, because the situation is changing very, very fast.
One, two, three. Like it changed a lot. I think, like first of all, its market started to be extremely competitive, because like 15 years ago it was much less like games overall. Second one, I think it's economy of development. It started to be extremely like you need extremely a lot of money to make really like big game. Like if we're talking about like AAA costs like 15 years ago, and today it's extremely different sums. It's like in the movie industry, I think the same problem now. So you need much more to make it profitable. So a lot of companies, like big companies, I think they really scared to risk, like to make something like unique, to experiment with gameplay or with some like settings, universes, because it's scary for them. If you lost all of these sums, like what you're gonna do, and because of that, I think in a big game development, maybe we now have a little bit less so unique games like it was before, but in the same time, a lot of independent developers start to be much more creative, and it's a lot of them. It's not about even creative, like it's a lot of them, but at the same time, because it's a lot of them, a lot of gems, for my opinion, do not have enough attention. So a lot of great games can be unknown just because they do not understand how to connect with their players. So because it's a lot of them. So, and also players' expectations. Like now they can review and talking about your game like in a minute, even they if they didn't play it, so it doesn't matter now. But at the same time, like I think mostly they're fair with their expectation. Like if they pay money, they want like to get a great product. But at the same time, the problem is what is the great product is. Yeah, like it's really sometimes discussable questions. What we decide to make, like to call it like a great. So like I think pros and cons now. So it changed, but I'm not sure it changed for bad. It just changed.
Really great point. And actually, Olena, from your perspective as a publisher, how has the war changed how international publishers look at Ukrainian studios specifically? Has it opened, closed the doors, or both?
In the beginning of the war, unfortunately, I think it closed more doors than it opened. Because there was a lot of uncertainty about how the situation would evolve, and many big international companies, while publicly expressing their support and sympathy to Ukraine, and even donating significant amounts of money to Ukraine, they were still hesitant about starting new businesses with Ukrainian companies simply from the risk mitigation perspective. But over time, we all know how it developed, how it evolved. Ukrainian companies showed incredible resilience, flexibility, and the ability to adapt to unpredictable circumstances, including blackouts, including curfews, inability to fly internationally, constant shelling, and so on and so on. So I can see that I see more and more big companies resuming their collaboration with Ukrainian, including publishers and platforms that even support Ukrainians and support Ukrainian teams. And many of these companies are actually very proud of this, because for them, it's one of the ways to support Ukraine, because more work creates more jobs, and it allows people to pay taxes, to donate, and to support Ukrainian economy as a whole. I wish more companies would understand that.
Well, my question is for you next.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Please.
That honestly, I think I understand that some of big companies or publishers, they think that it's a lot of risk, with their investments, whatever. But personally, I think it's extremely unfair because they didn't realize that Ukrainians, especially who is now in Ukraine, works like a gods. Like whatever they have some problems with electricity, water, heating, whatever, they deliver great products on time because for Ukrainians, I think it's a common thing that you need to deliver whatever what. And at the same time, it's much cheaper for than some other countries. So I think that it's a mistake that a lot of publishers and big investors decline to work with Ukrainian companies because they will get much more in a result than any risks. Like I think they have much more risk with some safe countries than with Ukrainians in the middle of the war. Yeah.
Ukraine is probably now the most prepared to any unpredictable circumstances, and whatever happens, Ukrainians already figured it out.
Ukrainians are some of the most hardworking people in the world. I mean, my mother would not stop. And yeah, it's really incredible. And the gift of being able to work with a Ukrainian team as an extension of a domestic team is actually wonderful because they work in our night. And then they deliver stuff in the morning, and then the US team takes over. You get like a 24-hour dev cycle. We could talk more about that. Anyway, it's cool. So Maria, you were able to deliver Stalker 2 in the middle of an active war. What broke first? Like, what was was it hard? Like, tell us about like the challenges in terms of delivering it. Well, what did it look like operationally?
Not easy but achievable, like always. Of course, the hard one was 2022, when it was like a first time we had 2 offices, because usually we work only in Kiev in one big office all together. So when you switch your teams, it started to be extremely hard. And we made new legal entity, a new office in a month. It was a little bit hard. In a new country, in Czech Republic. First of all, it's your psychological pressure. I think this is the most hard case because everything else, you can figure out. Everyone here live in COVID. It was stressful. Everyone here had some different problems. So you can figure out what to do if you your mental health strong enough. But when a lot of really brutal things happen, and a lot of your relatives is on a war, like militaries, or everyone in Ukraine have someone who died in the war, everyone. It's impossible to find a person who do not lose someone that he knows. So this is a hard one, but in the same time, because of the work, it was a little bit easier because it's helps you to not to think about all of that, and just think about it like why we work, because we really want to do great games. This is our goal. So when you focusing on that, it starts to be a little bit easier, at least for 8 hours per day. So I think anything else, like generator, okay, I figure out that part of my work, understand like how generators work, how to make petrol from the border, like to move it or something like that. But part of the job now.
That's amazing. Chloé, how did your team at Xbox think about developer support for Ukrainian studios? What worked, what didn't, and what would you have done differently?
I don't know that I can answer all of this accurately, but I'll do my best. I mentioned this earlier. The first thing that we did was listening. We're a big organization under a big corporation like Microsoft. There's also legal regulatory implications that were in place by the US government, and so we did a lot of listening at first. We also knew that we had to be flexible on a number of things, any delivery deadlines, anything like that. We just told people, you let us know. We'll be here when you have updates, when you have progress, when you have a build to share. We'll just wait for you. We heard about a lot of studio relocations. I think that was the first thing that struck us. There were studios figuring out where to relocate. There were studios that had people going into 3 different countries. How do we work with those? How do we make sure that our contractor agreements are in place so that we can send a dev kit to the right location when it's not the same country? And so, but those are all logistic questions that we just worked through. And then there were other areas where we looked at programs that we had in place that maybe we needed to adapt and potentially grow to respond better to support developers. So our developer acceleration program was one of those programs where I don't know that I can mention the titles because I'm not sure what's been public, but we have 2 partners, they're Ukrainian studios that are supported now through that program. And so those are things that we just kind of navigated with the tools that we already had in place, because again, when you're a big corporation, you can't move super fast on some of these things. But then there was also a lot of communications being done internally about what was happening there, exchanging between different organizations within Xbox about who was helping where, and maybe insight that we could share on the best way to help. So working with the team behind Game Camp, for example, was another way that we supported teams locally. And of course, then our communication team working with AGS on the documentary, which I was only a spectator for this, so I can't comment much further, but that was another way of leaning in as discreet a way as possible for us to actually put light on those challenges, on the amazing resilience that your team had, and the challenges that you had to navigate that none of us have any idea of, because I think until you're faced with that, it's impossible to really comprehend. So and today we continue in that same kind of vein, participating to events like this, continuing to listen, continuing to support those studios that have now reopened, maybe in different locations, and maybe changed account management inside our teams and so on. So yeah.
It sounds like a lot of flexibility and support and grace really made it work. That's amazing. So remember the days when we used to just make cool games and people would play them, right? Now we're kind of living in a different world, and Olena, you touched on that. But this is a question for any of you, all of you. What wisdom do you think you could impart to some of the developers here in the room of what's changed about how to get players to play your game?
I can start. If previously the conventional wisdom was build a great game and the success will follow, then in mobile, it's now replaced with build a great game and prove it with data. Because quality in mobile is not subjective anymore. It's measured. It's measured by your game retention, it's measured by your player engagement, by the length of your session, by your crash rate, by a lot of different numbers and metrics. And platforms also look at these numbers with help of their algorithms, and they use AI in many cases to discover good games, to discover the games that players care about with the help of these key indicators. So I would say that in mobile now, it's more important than ever to constantly measure your game success by the numbers, benchmark them against your competitors, and change something if your game is underperforming. Just do one iteration and then another and another, and the success depends on how fast you iterate and how efficient you at gathering the data and changing something in your game.
I think for premium games it's different story, but if we're talking about, it's my personal opinion, for indie developers, I think they're really important to be creative not only for your game, but also for how you're collecting your wish lists. It can be anywhere, like TikTok. I don't know if you could do it through Pornhub, let's do it. So without any limitations, if you have some idea, even really weird one, why not? Because everything that you need to do, it's collecting your wish lists, maybe use early access, maybe if for your game it's really hard to do, because not for every game early access works, but maybe you can change something to make it possible, to grow your audience. Because for indie developers, like I said before, the most big problem, it's not only be creative, it's also how to collect your players. So I think you need to be creative in any area of game development, not only development side. And this is the only way how to do it. Try to find publishers. Honestly, I think that first publisher deal will be extremely unfair, 99% that it will be unfair, but in the same time you can think that maybe my next game will be with success, because players will know you. It depends on the game, of course, but I think in your place I will try to find that, or if I will find some community somewhere, Reddit, whatever, if it will be big enough, maybe it's better to do without publisher, but at the same time with great or even good wish lists, it will be a little bit better deal with publisher. So you need to be creative, and now with LLM systems, we have a lot of them, you can use it to understand how business mechanic works in the games. Because yes, it's true that be creative it's not enough now for developers. Sometimes, we have some great examples when it works it works, but it's mostly like a lottery. So if you have a great product, you need to put a lot of effort to marketing that.
Start playtesting as early as possible. Ask your parents, ask your friends, ask your kids, anyone. You don't have to do it in a very structured, expensive way. Just build your community, and it starts at home. I mean, I watch my kids play, and I'm I have no idea about these games, and they teach me, and they're 7 and 9, and they play differently than I've ever played. So just by observing even your direct community, you'll learn a ton from that, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. Start there, because if your game is fun, even in a really, really, early phase, chances are it'll be really fun when it's, refine and fine-tune further down the line with prettier artwork and all of that. So that would be my first recommendation. And the thing that's really hard today is that you'll hear different things from different angles. Publishers want you to come to them with like a vertical slice and a really clear plan to go to market, and have you built your community, and have you done all the stuff that before a publisher would have probably done for you. Platforms, please tell me you haven't announced the game. Don't tell anyone about this, because we want to have this capture moment and get you on the stage and do a showcase and do that. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg story, and you have to really be true about what's right for you and your game, and it's hard to do when it's maybe like your first or second time, going to market with a title. Know what you're good at, and if what you're good at is developing and being creative, and you have no idea on the marketing side, go and find someone who can help you with that. There are agencies, you don't even have to sign with the publishers. There are like publishing services out there that are really, really fantastic, have very fair deals and contracts for teams, but also talk to people like How to Sloth, who just put out their contracts on Blue Sky today, and there's so much useful information there about what represents fair terms for from a publishing point of view. Read the contracts. Read them again, and ask a friend to read them. And if you can't afford a lawyer, get a lawyer, because there will be language in there that maybe you think means one thing and might mean something different. And just don't sign anything until you're absolutely sure that you understand what you're getting yourself in for. Again, plenty of really amazing publishers out there, but you've got to make sure that what they're asking from you really works for you, and it works for you today, it works for you when you launch the game, and it works for you after you launch the game. And then the last thing is, when you talk to publishers, when you talk to platforms, everything is confidential with us, and so you should feel comfortable sharing information, knowing that, until such time that you tell us we can talk about your game, we will not talk about your game. And publishers should obviously honor that as well. That's what NDAs are for, mutual NDAs. If you don't have one, ask for one. And if you feel that building your community independent of all of that is what you're good at, then go and do that and take your time with it. I would say the tricky thing today, early access is not what it was 10 years ago. The audience perceives it very differently, so make sure that what you deliver at the point of early access, even if it's not content complete, is really good. And be clear about what's not there with your community and what's to come. And actually, people get it if they know what they're jumping in for. Where it kind of goes wrong is when people have a certain level of expectation and then what's delivered is not there. And if you're not ready, delay. And make sure that what's there is nicely baked before you put it out in public. And use platforms. I've got programs to help you as well. We've got an insider program for our first-party titles, but for third-party titles as well. And it's all under NDA. It's real users. It's alpha, beta, closed testing, and it's free. So talk to platforms. They have some stuff. They don't always talk about it, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
Awesome answers. Okay, shifting gears and just letting you all know we're kind of at our last question. I could just ask you guys questions all day. I really appreciate your wisdom, and I'd love your wisdom on this. People throw around the word resilient quite a bit, and sometimes it's a little superficial. They don't really understand what resilience means. So in your perspective, this is a question for all of you again, what does it take to build a resilient studio rather than a reactive one?
I can start again? Okay. So I would say that in this perspective, being a resilient studio means don't just be able to react to the external circumstances and changes in the market, in the environment, and so on, but try to be able to predict these changes and to prepare for them in advance. I'll give you one example. For example, the rise of AI. Some studios were more prepared to it than the others, and now these studios are ahead and the others need to catch up because AI is everywhere. And in mobile game development, it's in every sphere of it. It's in marketing, it's in monetization, it's in personalizing the player experience, segmentation, and there are so many tools every day. So if 2-3 years ago, even 2-3 years ago, I went to the games industry events and someone was talking about using AI tools or building AI tool, and it was a competitive advantage. Now, not using AI is a disadvantage. So try to think about where the market would be in the next 3, 5, 10 years, and try to prepare yourself for this in advance. This is this proactive resilience, what it means for me.
For me, the first point, the most important one, it's a culture inside your company. Because if you will have some problems, you will have this support from your people or not, or you will it would be possible to rely on them or not, and it would be depends only because of your company culture. Because for a lot of companies, it's just words on the wall, like just some piece of paper without any action points or without like any leading for this culture. But if your people really understand that they can rely on you, they will support you in the hard times. Because like now, that maybe more than before, flexibility is one of the like most important skills that you need to have, because like world change, maybe tomorrow will be something else, like it could happen like anytime now, especially now. But if you will have this culture, so like really great team and flexibility, you can do anything. For my opinion, this would be like the first two important points to be like comfortable whatever will happen tomorrow, because otherwise everything will collapse with really great crisis in a day. Yeah.
This is an observation, because I've never run a studio, so you do all the hard work. But the studios that I believe are really great at showing that resilience are, I think, studios who take care of their people, and you see it in studios like Supergiant or Thunder Lotus, who are teams that have worked together for quite a long time. They're not necessarily bigger. Their budgets, the development budgets, have not changed dramatically, but they're really good at what they do because their processes, the way they work as a team is just a really, really well-oiled machine. So they can work faster, they've created efficiencies. Also, define what success is for you, because success is not necessarily a bigger budget with a bigger scope game with bigger number of players. Success might be another really cool game that's exactly the same budget as the last one, but that we do in half the time because we've worked together already for 10 years and actually has like community growing organically because they love the first game. That can be success. I think there's like a kind of like dysfunction in our mind for a lot of people of like everything needs to be bigger. It doesn't. You can just do really well with something that's actually just right. And the second thing is just take care of your people. Like the culture in your studio is so important. It's rough out there right now. It's hard to keep a job. So many things are out of our control. Take care of your people, listen in. There's other things going on in the world that, you know, are really hard to deal with. Having a dialogue about what can disrupt your workday, it can be something with your family, it can be world news, definitely can be world news. It could be anything, mental health issues. So having that culture of listening and being there for people, I think for studios, especially smaller studios, is extremely important, because if your team is well, then you can work better together and you'll make a great game.
Amazing. Yeah, just to remember, developers are people first, right? And that completely changes how you engage. And though you're separated, you know, by Slack, and you may be in different parts in the world, you know, people have families and they get sick and there's disruptions. Thank you so much for all of your thoughts, your contributions, and the advice that you have. It's been really great and eye-opening, and I'm sure everybody here in this room is has a lot of notes to take back. Thank you all so much for coming here and enjoying the borscht and trying the chlieb. And please, please, please go and play these Ukrainian games. Hire Ukrainian developers. And really thank you for being here. Slava Ukraini.
Guys, thank you for being here. If you want to learn more about the festival, games industry in Ukraine or something, go to ukrainian.games and you'll find much more.
Amazing. Thank you so much for supporting our cause, for coming today. It's a pleasure to have you. And again, feel free to look at the items at our auction. We also have donations and Loleka's table. Thank you so much for coming over and supporting us. We will be here tomorrow as well, so feel free to come.
Tell your
Thank you
friends.
so much. Yeah, if you take pictures, please tag us, invite your friends. We would appreciate it.